Good afternoon. This is the January 5, 2021 meeting of the Landmark Preservation Commission, and we will call this meeting to order. The first thing that we do before every meeting is introduce each of the commissioners. I'll start with myself. I'm Julie Johnson. I'm Historic Preservation Project Manager, and I was nominated from the community at large. Next is Jeanette.
Hi, Jeanette Chapman, attorney and historic district resident, nominated by History Colorado.
Thank you. Brad? You're muted, dude.
How's that?
Perfect.
This is Brad Gassman. I'm an architect nominated by History Colorado.
Thank you. Erin?
Hi, I'm Erin Hummel. I'm a landscape architect, and I was nominated by the American Society of Landscape Architects.
Thank you. Gary?
Hi, I'm Gary Petrie, and I'm an architect, and I was nominated by the Denver Planning Board.
Thank you. Erica?
Hi, I'm Erica Warzel. I'm a architectural historian and preservation consultant and an at-large member.
Thank you. Anne?
Ann Wattenberg. I'm an architect nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
Thank you, everybody. The first item of business on our agenda today are the meeting records. We have meeting records from 10/20, 2020, 11/03, 2020, 11/17, 2020, 12/1, 2020, and 12/15, 2020. Does anybody are there any comments, clarifications from any of the commissioners? Oh, you know what? Before we do that, could the staff, Jennifer, could you please introduce yourself? I forgot staff introduction.
Oh, no worries. I'm Jen Capetto. I'm Landmark Preservation staff, and I'm monitoring the meeting.
Yes, thank you very much, Jen. Sorry about that. Okay, back to the meeting records. Any clarifications? Any comments? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to accept?
Madam Chair, I can make the motion.
Thank you, Anne.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the following meeting records: October 20th, 2020, November 3rd, 2020, November 17th, 2020, December 1, 2020, and December 15, 2020.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Erica. I appreciate that. All righty. So we will take a vote. Jeanette?
Hi.
Brad?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And I will also vote aye. Julie votes aye. All right, at the beginning of every meeting, we allow a little bit of time for public comment about overall historic preservation, not any specific project that we're seeing today. And we allow 2 minutes for anyone from the public to join us. If you're joining by phone, please email landmark@denvergov.org with your name, phone number. And if you're joining via the computer, please click the hand raise function. We'll give it a minute in case anyone wants to join us. Jen, are you seeing anyone?
I don't see anyone. We don't have anyone on the phone right now, so so that's not an issue.
Okay, all righty.
No hand raises.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, seeing no public comment, then the next on our agenda is the consent agenda. And we have 3 items on the consent agenda. We have 2020-COA-428 Smith's Ditch, which is 701 South Franklin. We have 2020-COA-110, which is 18300 West Alameda Parkway, which is the Red Rocks Trading Post. We have 2019 TAXC-006, which is at 1633 Vine Street. First of all, is there anyone, any of the commissioners that need to recuse themselves that have any conflicts? Gary?
No, I had a question, but I don't need to recuse myself.
Okay, what's your question?
And this is for Jen, who reviewed this. It was kind of, I guess, this kind of review is a little out of the league for myself as an architect. I guess what my question has to do with is the addition of the erosion control, the riprap, and those kind of things. How are they compatible with the preservation of the historic character of the ditch? That's more of a question, I think, for a cultural landscape specialist or a landscape architect with experience in historic preservation. For me, it was just a, how's this going to look like a historic ditch when all this work is done?
That is an excellent question. It's not a good question for me to answer, but I can tell you that the goal for this is to allow this to continue being a functional irrigation ditch and water use for Denver water. And so these are methods that will help prevent soil erosion and continue the use of this ditch as a water course. If you would like to pull it off, the applicant from Denver Parks and Recreation is here. And I think she probably has her hand raised. Let me just see. Yep, she's got her hand raised. So we can pull it off consent if you'd like, and we can have her explain it a little bit.
If I'm the only one with concerns, I think we'll let it alone. But if there are others who would like further explanation, I would recommend we pull it off the consent agenda.
Gary, I think we'll pull it off the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Looks like I see a couple other people nodding their heads. They might have some questions as well. So let's pull that off the consent agenda and we'll
Okay.
put that at the top of the design review. All right, were there any other questions on the other two items in the consent agenda? Seeing none, could I get a motion to accept them as presented?
And for clarification, it's a motion to approve, not to accept.
Oh, to approve as presented. Thank you, Jen.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the following items on the consent agenda. 2020-COA-110, located at 18,300 West Alameda Parkway, the Red Rocks Trading Post. And item 2019 TAXC-006 at 1633 Vine Street in the Wyman Historic District.
Gary, thank you. Is there a second?
I second. This is Brad.
Thank you, Brad. So it has been moved and seconded to approve as presented. We'll do a roll call vote. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Gary? You're muted.
I'm trying to, aye.
Thank you. Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Julie, Julie votes aye as well. All right, so we are moving on then to the design review. And since we pulled the first item on the consent agenda.
We have one item, sorry. We do have to set a public hearing that's on here. And I did have.
Oh, that's right. You're absolutely right. It's right here in front of me. I've got it right here. I'm so sorry.
I still have a correction for it. The description currently shows that's a total roof structure demolition, and that's actually incorrect. It should say more than 40% demolition.
Okay.
You could change the motion to describe it as a more than 40% demolition. That's actually what it's for.
More than 40%. Okay. So what we need to do at this point is we have 2020-LMDEMO-406, 2847 Stout Street, and it's an application to remove more than 40% of the roof. And we would like
the structure, not roof.
the structure. Oh, the structure. Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that.
Sure.
And we would like to set the public hearing for February 2, 2021. And I need to call for a motion to approve that date. Is that correct? All right, do I hear a motion to have the public hearing on February 2nd, 2021?
Madam Chair, this is Erica. I move to recommend or have set the public hearing for project 2020-LMDEMO-406, 2847 Stout Street for February 2nd, 2021.
Thank you, Erica. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Gary. All righty, we'll do another roll call vote. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, so Julie votes aye. So we will see you back, Crystal, for that project on February 2nd, 2021. Thanks very much, Crystal.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Now we're getting on to design review. So 2020-COA-428 Smith's Ditch, could we make that harder to say? Which is at 701 South Franklin. And then the staff person that reviewed.
Yep. So just one thing first, if people were on the consent agenda, the 2 items that were approved, they can leave the meeting. You're welcome to stay for as long as you want, but you do not have to.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Your item has already been approved. So, okay. So Smith Ditch, I didn't prepare a whole lot for this. So this is a project to improve and do erosion control at this ditch. It's only a portion of the ditch that you can see here. So let me go to this screen. So the Grasmere Lake, this is oriented to the east. The tennis courts are just to the north of Grasmere Lake, and this is going along the north side and along the east side of the lake. The proposal is there is a non-historic bridge right here, Bridge S. And then there are a couple of other bridges of this course, 3 more that are non-historic. Bridge S looks like this one at the top left, and the other 3 bridges look like the ones at the bottom left, and those will be replaced to look more like Bridge S. And then there will be some work done for erosion control and some steps to allow for safe access to the ditch that will be done periodically through the course. And that is my entire presentation. Staff feels that this meets the design guideline 5.1 for retaining and restoring historic site and landscape features, and 5.3C, which is to plan new site and landscape features to respect the character defining features of the historic district, and when introducing new site features, to respect the historic patterns in terms of placement, proportion, design compatibility. So we're recommending approval based on those 2 guidelines.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Did you say the project manager was?
Yes.
Okay. So Gary, you've got a question for staff?
Yes, I do. The image on the right of the ditch, those, I'll call them improvements for not knowing when they occurred. Do they represent something that happened during the period of significance, or is that a question really for the applicant to answer?
I'm not sure. So yes, let's ask the applicant that question.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for staff before we go on to the project manager, Erica? You're muted, sorry.
Sorry. And perhaps this is the same where the applicant can answer this better than staff, but I'm also wondering, I was a little confused. Bridge S has been referred to as both a historic bridge and a non-historic bridge in the staff report, and as referred to as historic, but then on the drawings as non-historic. And I'm curious as to the date of that bridge and the dates of the other bridges to be replaced.
I don't know the answer for the dates, but you're correct. There is that discrepancy, and that was my error that I just noticed while I was giving the presentation with the slide that said it's non-historic. So my apologies. I knew that there was a historic bridge, which is this one right here, which is right along the edge of the path at the northwest corner of the lake. The bridge that is proposed to be replaced or replicated is Bridge S, which is just to the southeast of the tennis courts. And I don't know the history of these bridges. So yeah, the designation is really just the ditch itself. These span the ditch, so it's part of the designation. But the pathways along the ditch don't follow into the designation itself. But I see the applicant has their hand raised.
Okay.
So I think we can move on to that unless you have other questions for me. Okay. Emily, do you want to move her over? Do you want me to?
I did.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi all, my name is Jennifer Olson. I'm a project manager with Denver Parks and Recreation, and I am the project manager assigned to the improvements at Washington Park for the city ditch. And just real quickly, as Jennifer mentioned, the bridges are not historic. Bridge S, the one that you see in the top left, was designed in 1993. So I don't have the actual construction date, but it was probably late 1993, early 1994. This form of bridge construction has worked out really well for operations, and it has been used as the design intent for the other 3 bridges that are being replaced as part of this project. And then to answer Gary's question regarding the Sandstone Steps, so we have used within Parks and Rec sandstone for quite some time. It's found in some of our most historic parks, including Wash Park. And so while it was probably not one of the original construction materials when the ditch was installed, we do feel that it kind of maintains a historic air about it. And so that's why we used it along the Downing stretch, which is where the picture on the right-hand side that's on the screen right now was taken. And so the idea is to continue with this design intent through this next section of ditch improvements so that it matches what's existing in the Downing section today.
All right, Jennifer, thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners for the project manager? Anne?
Maybe I'm missing this, but could the applicant explain what is the date of significance of the original ditch? And also, one more time, when were the limestone pieces that we're looking at installed?
So I can answer the period of significance. So it was prior to and including 1870. So very early.
So the ditches from 1870 and these improvements that we're looking at on the right?
Yeah, so I am trying to look back through our files real quickly to give you an idea of when the Downing stretch was updated. Give me 1 second. So it looks like the area along Downing was revitalized in the early 2000s, right around 2012, 2013.
And Jennifer, this is Erica. I was wondering, does that include the concrete edging that we see? You talked about the sandstone steps, but because the lower left image, we see that there's sections of the ditch that haven't had that edging at all, and it's still the natural grass and bank.
Sorry, which unfortunately we were both named Jennifer.
They usually refer to me as Jen, so
okay,
there you go.
I will take that one. So the concrete edging along Downing was installed at the same time as those sandstone steps. We try to limit the use of concrete as much as possible in order to maintain the historic aspect of the ditch itself. So we only use concrete as a reinforcing material around the bridges and then right around whenever there's a curve in the ditch, because that's where we're seeing the greatest areas of erosion. Everywhere else, we're really trying to maintain a permeable ditch bank and base. So the reinforcement will only come from that riprap, and then the rest of the ditch itself, the bottom of the ditch, will maintain that dirt kind of exposed surface, so that when kids are, a lot of kids like to play in the ditch, they'll still be playing on that kind of historic dirt surface. It won't be concrete.
Okay, are there any other questions for the applicant, Anne?
One more question. When the improvements were made in the early 2000s, were they reviewed by the Landmarks Preservation Commission of the time?
Yes, so that was before my time at DPR, but Kent Sondegraff was the project manager at the time. And the design consultant was Wink, who has actually designed the second section. And they did proceed through the Landmark Commission board approval process.
Great.
Thank you.
Does the staff have any, or I'm sorry, the commissioners have any other questions for the applicant? All right, I don't see any other questions from the staff? Okay, well then, commissioners, let's deliberate.
Hold on, public comment.
Well, we do. We have a public comment?
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to offer public comment.
Oh, yeah.
Usually you don't for consent.
I made the assumption since it was for a consent agenda, but are there any comments from the public?
Don't see any hands raised.
Great.
If anyone would like to comment, raise your hand. Okay, no hands
Okay.
raised.
Okay, great. All right, commissioners, let's deliberate. What are your thoughts?
Well, from a landscape architect's perspective, I don't have any concerns about the proposed modifications. One, especially because it was approved by a prior LPC, but landscapes can't be fixed in time as the same way that a building or a structure can. And in my opinion, and based on what's proposed in design guidelines, preserving the ditch as its function and in its alignment is warranted by improving these edges so that it doesn't continue to erode and it maintains its function for conveying water, but I think also its function for a community amenity. So I have no concerns on what's proposed. And looking at the details, I don't think the riprap armor and reinforcement is going to be readily visible unless you're right up against it. It's at the toe of the slope and beneath the water surface. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, Erin, thank you. Anyone else? Erica.
Yeah, Erin, I do want to thank you for that perspective, because a previous experience with waterways that have been undergone erosion control through the Section 106 process definitely triggered. I've totally lost the language for that now that I'm no longer with the state. Adverse impact on those waterways. But I think your point about the course of the waterway is important, and I think that was definitely a factor in those other projects that I have referenced to personally, that it wasn't just the material used at the ditch, but as well as its course had changed significantly. So given all of that, I don't have any concerns at this point, but I do appreciate Gary raising them for further detail and getting specifics.
Great. Thanks, Erica. Anybody else like to opine? No, I'm not seeing anybody want to. All right. Given that deliberation, no one has any other comments. Do I hear a motion to approve the project as presented?
Madam Chair, this is Brad.
Thanks,
I
Brad.
move to approve application number 2020-COA-428 for the bridges, terraces, and erosion control work at Smith's Ditch as per design guidelines 5.1 and 5.3. Presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brad and Aaron. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Jeanette,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Gary,
Nay.
Erica,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and Julie. I will also vote aye. So we have 6 ayes and 1 nay. The motion passes. All right. Okay, the next design review then is Brittany. 2020-COA-438, which is at 3412 West 31st Avenue. Brittany.
So my first project of the day is for an infill proposal at 3412 West 31st Avenue. This is the current site. This is in the Allen M. Ghost Historic District. On August 18th, the Landmark Preservation Commission approved the total demolition of the existing structure, which is that 1-story structure you see here, and a zone lot amendment to split the site into 2 buildable zone lots. On November 3rd, the Landmark Preservation Commission conditionally approved the mass form and context for this site. So here we have a rendering of what the mass form and context would look like. And during the November 3rd commission meeting, the commission requested that the applicant restudy the maximum height of the proposed structure in coordination with the restudy of the second and first floor window proportions. The overall structure width to remain 19 feet, that a dimension be provided for the porch roof and porch patio to ensure it's within typical ranges, and restudy of the porch column design and eliminate the rear rooftop deck if it was within the rear 35% of the zone lot, and then also incorporate additional design details to further break up the massing. So again, this is a rendering of the phase 1 submittal, and here we have a rendering of the phase 2 submittal. So since the phase 2 submittal, the applicant has restudied the overall structure height. It was reduced from 28 feet 4 inches to 27 feet 5 3/4 inches. The pitch of the roof was reduced from a 10/12 pitch to a 9/12 pitch. The second floor plate was reduced from 8 feet to 7 feet 8 inches. The porch roof was revised from a flat roof to have a shed roof, and then also the plinth on the porch column was eliminated from the design in favor of a simple porch post. The ground floor windows have been revised from a group of 3 to a group of 2. And then the second floor windows have been revised from a group of 2 to 1 single window, which is typical of the nested gable forms within the Allen M. Ghost Historic District. Additional horizontal banding has also been added to the structure, as you can see here in this rendering, and we'll look at in further detail in the elevations. Landmark staff do feel that the adjustments to the design has created a new infill structure that is compatible with the mass and scale of the Allen M. Ghost Historic District and does meet the commission's conditions from the November 3rd meeting. So here we have the proposed site plan. This is showing how the structure will sit on the site and all the walkways and patios that are proposed. It is also showing that a fence is proposed. The fence is going to be a vertical cedar fence. The overall height of that fence is not noted, so that we will need a notation for that fence. Per zoning, fencing in the rear yard is allowed to be 6 feet in height. Anything over 6 feet in height is considered an overheight fence and does require a Z-pen process. So we would like to see that fence height noted and ensure that it is within typical ranges, which is usually 6 feet in height. This site plan does also note gas meters and electrical meters. However, the HVAC systems are not noted in this site plan or landscape plan. So we would request that the applicant note the placement of their HVAC units in the site plan and landscape plan and ensure that they are at the rear of the property and not visible from the public right of way. So next we'll go to the landscape plan. Again, it's pretty similar. You can see the gas meters and electrical meters, but no notations on the placement of the HVAC units. You can see in the site plan a little bit better that proposed rear patio, which will be concrete, the proposed front walkway, which will also be concrete. There is a fence proposed for the structure, and it does look like in plan that the fence on the south side of the project will be slightly forward of the front facade. We do typically require fencing to be set back at least 1 foot from the primary facade. Sometimes the commission has given flexibility and allowed fencing to be set flush with the facade if that's typical of the neighborhood. But those are the major things to note in the site plan. There's no change to the placement of the structure on the site, no change to the overall length of the project on the site, and the applicant has confirmed that the structure will remain 19 feet in length. So here we just have the basement floor plan and then the first floor plan. The basement will have a light well in the front to provide light into that rec room. The applicant has stated that they have placed the light well in the front facade of the structure because the lot is so small that they cannot have light wells that encroach into the side yard setback. Egress windows for safety are allowed to encroach in that side yard setback. So on the south facade, you do see an egress window for that bedroom that is located in the basement. So that's just the plan there. There are no major changes to the first floor plan. So you can see that plan there. And then here we have the second floor plan and the roof plan. The applicant has confirmed that the deck is totally within the front 65 of the lot, so that is meeting that condition that it not be in the rear 35. And then the applicant has also provided a dimension for the porch, which is within typical ranges of the Allen M. Ghost Historic District. And then we just have a simple gable roof that will be clad in asphalt shingle. The mudroom at the rear will have metal flashing, and then the garage roof will have TPO roofing material. So this is the elevation from the phase 1 submittal. Again, I just brought this in to show the commission how the project has evolved since the phase 1 submittal. So you can see that there are groups of 3 windows on the ground floor, groups of 2 windows on the second floor, that flat roof porch with the plinth column design, and then that roof pitch and overall height that the commission had some concerns about in relationship to the window proportions for the structure. So here is the phase 2 submittal with those revisions to the structure, in which you can see that the height has been adjusted, as well as the window proportions. The porch has been restudied, and the pitch of the roof has been restudied. So this structure will be clad in brick on the front facades. And then also at the mudroom, this brick is a general shale brick with a running bond pattern. It is a red brick structure. It will have a string coursing and windowsills that are typical of the Allen M. Ghost Historic District. In the gable faces, we will have vertical James Hardie siding and horizontal James Hardie siding to provide some interesting accent there. Staff feel that this is a modern interpretation of the decorative fish scale shingles that you see within the Allen M. Ghost Historic District, and it is a modern interpretation of that application of shingle work in the gable face. The rear facade is also clad in lap siding. This lap siding is again James Hardie product. It will have a smooth finish and a 4-inch reveal. The rear facade will also have sliding glass doors. Sliding glass doors are not something we typically see within our historic districts. However, the commission has occasionally approved it for new construction in certain instances where it will have limited visibility from the public right of way. So the doors will be minimally visible, but I do want to note that is not something that we typically see and is not something that we approve for our historic structures, but the commission has approved it for new additions and infill construction. This is the east elevation. That brick cladding will wrap the facade on the secondary facades, both the east and west elevation, 15 feet 4 inches, and then it will transition into a lap siding material. Again, that James Hardie product with a smooth finish 4-inch reveal. All the windows you can see here are a 1/1 window in they are a Fibrex composite. Fibrex composite is something that we allow on new infill construction, but not on the historic structures. So the windows are appropriate for this new project, but is not something window material that we typically allow on the historic structures. You can see that mudroom will be clad in brick at the rear and that lap siding on the secondary facades. On the west elevation, the chimney will also be clad in that same brick cladding, but similar case where the brick only wraps 15 feet 4 inches on the secondary elevations, which is often typical of new infill construction within our historic districts. The garage structure is just going to be clad in that lap siding. It will be, again, that smooth finish Hardie product with a 4-inch reveal to match the primary structure. There are horizontal windows on the garage. They do face the interior a lot and are not visible from the public right of way. So staff were not concerned about those windows as they will not be visible from the public right of way. Here you can see the materials that are proposed for the project. So again, that modular brick, it is a ballpark brick that we have approved several times for use within the historic districts. That Hardie product, both the horizontal and vertical application, the asphalt shingle, which will be a black color, and then all of the color schemes. And here we have the window schedule. Staff do have some concerns over window G, which is the egress window on the front facade. Or sorry, it's not an egress window, it's a light well window. It's not an actual egress there. We do feel that it is not in proportion with the rest of the windows on the facade. So I'm going to actually go back to the front elevation. So if you can see on this front elevation that this egress window is much wider than the windows above it and is not the similar proportions. Additionally, when we're talking about light well windows, they're usually not this tall in height. So we do have some concerns over window G and would recommend that it be a more proportional window and a smaller casement window to reduce the size of that light well on the front facade. Additionally, the egress window well material is a perforated stone fiberglass material. This is something that doesn't have a contextual relationship to the cladding materials on the front facade. So we do have some concerns over that egress or that light well window well material proposed for the front facade. This is also proposed for the egress on the secondary elevation. That egress window is at the rear of the project site and will be screened by the privacy fence. So we are not overly concerned with its application there, but at least on the front facade, we would like to see a higher quality material there. So here we just have some section details of the proposed project. The column size is not noted in plan. However, it does seem to be proportional to the project and to other nested gable structures within the Allen and Ghost Historic District. You can see that shed roof that is proposed. Here we have a section through the nested gable that also shows the egress, or the, excuse me, the light well. I'm sorry, I keep referring it to an egress window. It is a light well on the front facade. And then a section through the rear deck, and then also a rear deck elevation. When I was putting together my PowerPoint presentation, I noticed that the application for 3414 is missing the rear deck elevation detail for the cable railing that is proposed, but it is the same cable railing, so they will need to include that detail in their submittal for 3414 as well. So you can see that here in this submittal, but we won't have that in the next submittal. Here we have all the window sections through the various materials. So since we have changes in materials, you can see that the windows are proposed to be inset 2 inches within the brick portion of the building, at least 2 inches within the brick portion, and where the nested gable transitions into the hardy material, and then also with 2 inches into the secondary elevations where it is all just cladding material. So we do have window sections for all of the various portions of where the materials do change. This has been an issue sometimes in the past when we see changes in material and it's not clear that all the windows will be inset, and it does create issues at final CO. So the applicant has provided all those details and confirmed that the windows will all be inset 2 inches within all materials on the facade. Here we just have some more section details. Here you can see the cladding material transition that will occur on the secondary elevations between that brick facade and then the lap siding material. You can see the soldier coursing details that is proposed for the facade, and then again another railing detail and balcony detail that is proposed. So staff are recommending conditional approval of this project, as we do feel that the changes made to the project have significantly improved the project, and it is compatible with the Allen M. Ghost Historic District, and high quality materials are used for this infill construction that we see often within our historic districts. However, we do have some conditions, and those conditions are show the location of the HVAC equipment and ensure it is in the rear of the property, provide a height dimension for the proposed fencing and ensure that it is no taller than 6 feet in height, set fencing back 1 foot from the primary facade, use a higher quality material that relates to the front facade cladding material on the front facade light whale, revise the proportions of the light whale window on the front facade to have a proportional relationship to the windows above, and use a smaller casement style window to reduce the height of the light whale on the front facade.
Thank you, Brittany. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff at this point? All right, then Jen is the applicant with us.
Yep. Emily is moving them over.
Okay, great.
They're ready.
Okay, great. To the applicant, you have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation, and after that, the commission members may have questions for you. Jen will hold up a timepiece for you so you can see where you are as you give your presentation.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we're going to give a whole lot of presentation here. I think Brittany has done a great job of overview of the project. We have met with staff, Brittany in particular, several times from the last review of massing. And what you're seeing today and reviewing today is the culmination of that work together. I would just like to add a couple of items. Brittany and I did discuss the sliding glass doors, and the sliding glass doors are not your standard profile. We did go with a wider profile sliding glass doors, so they feel more like a patio door rather than a thin line sliding glass doors. The window light well in the front, the depth of it was to give as much light as possible. There's not much lighting allowed down in that basement level, so we're looking to bring down as much light as we absolutely can. And we have the one egress window well on the side for the bedroom, and then the only light well is off the front there. So other than that, ready to hear your comments.
All right. Okay, Dave, thank you very much. Commissioners, have you any questions for the applicant?
Hold on, we actually need to have his name and address for the record.
Oh,
as
you're
well.
right. Dave, your full name and your address, please.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Dave Marquez, Marquez, and address is 4251 Kipling Street, Suite 200, Wheat Ridge, 80033.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, commissioners, have you any questions for the applicant? Brad?
I have one question. The vertical siding that's on the front facade, the photo just looks like a flat panel siding. Is it, what's the spacing on that? Is that like a 4-inch and then a vertical, or what is that exactly?
Correct. It'll be a 4-inch vertical to match the 4-inch horizontal of the lap siding.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? No? Staff, did you have any comments, any additional comments? No? All right, Jen, do we have anyone from the public? Public comments, each person can comment up to 2 minutes. Is there anybody? If you're joining by phone, email landmark@denvergov.org. If you're joining the computer, please use the hand raise function on Zoom.
I don't see any hands raised.
No hands raised? All righty. Then we will close this, and commissioners, we will go on into deliberation. So what are your thoughts, commissioners? Gary.
I support the application. I think the changes that were made generally have improved design and compatibility of the project from its mass form and context submittal. I think we need to talk more about that front window.
Mm-hmm.
But I think some very good improvements have been made to comply with the standards.
Great, Gary, thank you. Anyone else?
This is Brad. I would echo what Gary said. I really going through the staff report, I think I'm in agreement with everything there. I think the window well in the front is a question, and I would like to talk a little bit more about the window itself as well.
Okay, all right. What were your thoughts on the window, Brad?
Well, I guess my question was, it's just not a visible, component of that front facade. So it seemed that the comment about staff's comment about a higher quality window well material, I think that is very accurate. There's some opportunities there, but I was less concerned about the actual window itself because it's not visible.
Yeah.
But I understand the comment as it relates kind of to the overall facade, but it's just really is an element that's not visibly seen as part of that facade's composition.
Gary, did you have any thoughts about what Brad just said? Because you mentioned as well.
I agree with what Brad is saying. I think visibility is maybe going to be more prominent because the site is relatively flat there and the buildings are relatively close to the walk. So it will be visible, but I don't think it'll be obtrusive. I do think that the window well material needs to be improved upon. It should not introduce yet another kind of texture or material to the ones that are already proposed for the building itself. So I think that's a concern. As far as the size of the window is concerned, I guess I'm okay with the size that's proposed. If it was smaller, it would be better, but I don't have a strong objection to what's shown in terms of size.
Okay. What are others thinking? Are there any other elements in this that anyone has any trouble with? For instance, the sliding glass doors, or any concerns about any of that? Yeah.
Well, I agree that it's a big improvement. It's a great improvement. I don't have a problem with the wider window well in the size of it, because I think there is a functionality to it which makes it, you know, which I think it reinforces the idea. I agree about the material. I think the material should be upgraded. I guess the question that I have for the other commissioners has to do with the shape of the of the porch roof, because when we saw it previously, it was flat, and this shed roof, to me, I sort of understand it when I'm looking at sheet 9 of 29 and looking at all of the other porch roofs on the block and across the way, and I sort of understand it as an interpretation. It just looks to me out of place. But I would be interested in whether other commissioners feel that way, because this is an element that we didn't see the last time. Last time we saw it, it was flat.
That's a good point. Commissioners, do you have any thoughts, Fran?
This is Erica. As far as the shed roof goes, I mean, it does read more as a, you know, if one were to think of this that it was a historic building, which I, you know, think it clearly is of its time. So I'm not concerned about it being kind of a false sense of history, but the shed roof itself does kind of mimic the idea of a porch that's been altered over time, where a roof that maybe once was gable has been replaced with a shed roof, based on you know, exposure, what have you, and just need to change. So I don't have an issue with it.
Okay, thanks, Erica. Any other comments about the roof?
This is Gary. I'm okay with the shed roof design as well. I think it's evocative of a historic approach to putting a roof on a front porch. So I'm good with it.
Okay, great. All righty. So are we getting close to a consensus? Is there somebody who would like to make a motion?
I can make the motion.
Thank you, Ann.
Unless, Brad, did you want to make it? Oh.
Well, I was going to ask the question about the what the consensus was on the window well window.
Oh, the window well window.
If that is something that we are in agreement that maybe should become more of a casement style window or have a more direct relationship to the windows above, or if that was something that wasn't as much of a concern. I think for me, it seems like it's less of a concern, and I think there were a few others that said that, but I could make a motion. I just wanted to talk through that to get everybody's opinion.
No, I think that's good, Brad. I was getting the feeling that people were thinking that wasn't, that they were basically in agreement with you, that it wasn't a big deal. They were fine with it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with what you said, Brad.
All righty. Then, Ann, did you want to make the?
Can I raise one more question?
Sure, of course, Jeanette.
I wondered if it would be helpful to the applicant, or if it can just be worked out with staff about what the nature of the higher quality materials for the window well should be.
That's a good question. Staff, Brittany, is that something that they can come back to you without having to come back to the commission?
They could. Usually we review those kinds of things administratively, but I will say that typically that's either a smooth finish concrete that would relate to like the porch foundation, or brick that relates to the facade. We're willing to consider other materials, but if we don't feel that it's meeting the intent of the commission's approval, we would have to forward that back to the commission for review.
Okay, so the applicant will come back to you then. Okay, Gary.
And I agree with what Brittany just said, that either concrete or masonry would be acceptable materials, not a corrugated galvanized area well, and certainly not any other kind of sort of prefab area well material like reinforced fiberglass or something like that.
Okay, thanks for elaborating.
And I guess I just want to add to that, our intent, just to make that crystal clear, is to avoid introducing, as Gary mentioned before, a different texture and material reference.
Thanks, Erica. All right, Anne, did you want to go forward with the motion?
I was going to let Brad, I think Brad was ready to do the motion.
All right, Brad.
Yeah. All right. I move to conditionally approve application number 2020-COA-438 for the Phase 2 design details at 3412 West 31st Avenue as per design guides 4.2 through 4.6, 4.8, 4.14, 4.15, 4.17, 4.18, 4.19, 5.9, 5.16, 5.21, character defining features for the Allen M. Ghost Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following conditions. Show the location of the HVAC equipment and ensure it is in the rear of the property. Provide a height dimension for the proposed fencing and ensure that it is no taller than 6 feet in height. Set fencing back 1 foot from the primary facade. Use a higher quality material that relates to the front facade cladding on the front facade light well. That's all, yeah.
Thank you, Brad. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeanette. All right, we'll do a roll call vote then. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Julie votes aye as well. The motion passed, and now, so the applicant will be visiting with Brittany about the conditions. So now we go to 2020-COA-439, 3414 West 31st Avenue, and Brittany is up yet again.
Our next project's at the same site, which again went through a similar process with the commission, in which the existing structure was approved for demolition on August 18th, and a zone lot amendment was approved to create 2 buildable lots that are 25 feet in width. And then the commission reviewed the Phase 1 mass form and context submittal at the November 3rd meeting, and conditionally approved that with the following conditions: that the height of the overall, the max height of the structure is clarified in the Phase 2 submittal. The overall structure width to remain 19 feet. Restudy the window proportions on the facades, and then restudy the porch wall design and restudy the horizontal articulation of the structure. So here you can see the Phase 1 submittal for this structure, and then here is the Phase 2 submittal showing how the structure has changed. So the applicant has clarified that the max height of this structure is 28 feet 4 inches, and it was previously shown at 27 feet 6.5 inches. During commission discussion of these projects, the commission did indicated that some variation in height between these 2 structures would be typical of the Allen M. Ghost Historic District and create an interesting street wall there. So staff didn't have major concerns over the increase in height for this structure. On the ground floor, the windows were shifted to the west to align with the second floor windows. And then the window proportions on all elevations were restudied to be more similar to each other. The porch roof pitch was also reduced in this submittal. And then the porch wall was revised from a cable design to a solid brick wall. And then a limestone foundation course was added to the front facade, and a fiber cement course to the secondary elevations to add additional banding to this facade and break up the massing a little bit. Landmark staff are concerned about the shift in the front facade ground floor windows to the west and the change in the porch roof pitch. In the phase 1 submittal, the ground floor windows were centered on the dining room wall, and now they have been shifted to the west. So they are a little asymmetrical on that ground floor facade down there. We would recommend that they be shifted back to their original location to be similar to the Edwardian form that this structure is pulling inspiration from within the Allen and Ghost Historic District. And you can see an example of this in your packet at 3395 West 30th Avenue. In the phase 2 submittal, the porch roof was just below the second floor windowsills. The revised porch roof pitch is a much shallower, creating a greater void between the porch roof and the second floor windowsills. Staff would recommend a return to the steeper pitched porch roof for this structure to be more typical to the Edwardian forms that this structure is pulling inspiration from. And we can see that a little bit better in elevation, so I will just move on. So here we have the proposed site plan. Similar to the last project, we do see the electrical meters and gas meters noted, but the HVA systems are not noted in plan. They will need to be noted in plan, and typically we do require those to be at the rear and have minimal visibility from the public right away. Additionally, the overall height of the fence has not been noted. Again, that needs to be 6 feet in height. Anything over 6 feet in height is considered an overheight fence per zoning. So we would recommend that that be noted and it be no more than 6 feet in height. We would also recommend that the fence be set back 1 foot from the primary facade. So here we have the landscape plan, again, similar to the other project where we'll have a concrete rear patio and a concrete walkway and a concrete porch foundation. There's been no change to the overall length or depth of the structure on the lot, and the applicant has confirmed that the structure will be 19 feet in width. Here we have the basement plan. So similar to 3412, there will be an egress window on the front facade, or sorry, light well window on the front facade to provide light into the rec room for this structure. However, this is slightly different from 3412 as this light well window is actually located in the porch foundation, which is really atypical of development within the historic districts. So we do have some concerns over that placement. Again, zoning doesn't allow light wells to encroach into the side setback, but egress windows are allowed to encroach in the side setback. So you do see an egress window on the secondary elevations at the rear. Here we have the first floor plan, and you can see that those windows for the first floor are not centered on the dining room that is identified as that program for that area. Staff would recommend that these ground floor windows be recentered on the dining room to be more typical of the Edwardian development within the Allen M. Ghost Historic District. And then you can see that light well that is in that porch foundation. So here we just have the second floor plan. The second floor windows are centered on the facade, which is typical of the development. The applicant has confirmed that the deck is totally within the front 65 of the lot. Similar to the last project, the roofing will be a asphalt shingle, and the mudroom will have metal flashing, and then the garage roof will have TPO roofing material. So here is the phase 1 submittal that the commission reviewed. Again, I have pulled this in so that the commission can see the revisions to the design and the changes made to the project proposal. So here you can see that the ground floor windows and second floor windows on the front facade are not directly aligned. They are offset from each other, which is typical of the Edwardian development. And you can also see that cable railing that was previously proposed, and then that porch roof pitch that's just below the windowsill on the structure. And here we have the phase 2 submittal showing that solid brick wall, that shift in the ground floor windows to the west. Again, we would recommend that those be recentered on the dining room to be more compatible with the Edwardian development within the district. And then you can see that shallower roof pitch as well. This structure will be clad in a blonde brick. This is a color that we have previously approved for new construction within the L&M Ghost Historic District. And then within the gable face, the applicant will be using that same horizontal and vertical siding material to provide some kind of accent to the gable face. As you can see here, they're both 4 inches in reveal, and the rear facade will also be clad in that horizontal lap siding with a 4-inch reveal. Again, cementitious product, James Hardy smooth finish with that mudroom also clad in brick. The same sliding glass doors that you see in the previous proposal. And then also that cable railing that we don't have a detail elevation of in this submittal that I noticed when I was putting together my presentation. So I'd also ask for a detail of that cable railing as well, so we can confirm that that matches. Again, this will have a light well on the front. It's the same size as the previous light well, and it is also proposed to be that fiberglass material on the front. However, unlike 3412, you will not be able to see this, this light well window due to the solidness of the porch wall. But we would request that the well itself be a higher quality material that relates to the porch foundation or the front facade material, which again, we would suggest be a concrete or a brick to match that front facade. Similar to the last project, the brick will wrap 15 feet 4 inches onto the secondary elevations, and then we'll transition into a lap siding material with that mudroom clad in the brick that is proposed for the front facade. The chimney on the west elevation will also be clad in the brick. The secondary elevations do have grouped windows up at the front and then single windows towards the rear, which is typical of the neighborhood. The garage structure is clad in lap siding with a 4-inch reveal, smooth cementitious product with those horizontal windows on the north elevation that face the interior of the lot. So we did not have concerns over those. Here you can see the materials that are proposed. Again, that beige brick that we have approved for new infill construction within the Ghost Historic District. That cementitious smooth product for the horizontal and vertical siding, the black asphalt shingle, the various paint colors, the metal flashing, that fiberglass well that is proposed for both the light well and the egress window well on the secondary elevation, and then the window schedule here. Here we just have sections of the proposed project, pretty similar to the last submittal, so I won't spend a lot of time on this, but we have a section through the entry. This porch is more of a craftsman style, which you can see reflected in this section here with how it's supported. Here we have a section through the porch that shows that light well that is in the porch foundation, which is really atypical. However, you won't see this from the public right away in any way, but we would request that that well material would be high quality material. Similar to the last product, we have sections through all of the windows where the various materials are to ensure that all windows will be inset 2 inches into the facade, no matter the cladding materials. So here you have a section through the brick. This structure will have limestone sills for its windows on the brick structure, where the other one had soldier course brick sills. So that is a slightly different detail that we do see on this structure. But all windows will be inset 2 inches into the materials, which you can see here. Similar to the last project, we do have that cladding transition detail, that balcony detail, the siding to brick detail, so we can ensure that this project is constructed correctly. So here is the just the rendering of the proposed project. At this time, staff are recommending approval with conditions, and the conditions for this project are similar to 3412, in which the applicant will need to show the HVAC locations, ensure that it's in the rear of the property, provide a height dimension for the fencing, and ensure that it is no taller than 6 feet in height. set the fencing back 1 foot from the primary facade, use a higher quality material that relates to the front facade cladding material and porch foundation material on the front facade light well. We also recommended using a smaller casement style window here to reduce the height of the light well. And then we recommended recentering the ground floor front facade windows on the dining room wall and increasing the pitch of the porch roof to peak just below the window sill on the second floor windows.
Okay, great. Brittany, thank you very much. Commissioners, have you any questions for Brittany, for staff? Erica?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the front entry door. In your staff report, you noted, it sounded like you were thinking that it was similar to the door proposed for the neighbor, but in all drawings, it shows it as a full light door rather than the 3/4 door or quarter light door. So I'm just wondering if it's full light, would you still think that that door meets the guidelines for windows and doors?
So that's definitely an error in my staff report. I did know that it was a full light door. It is not typical of the historic doors that you see in the surrounding context, but we do often see the full light doors on new infill construction within the Ghost Historic District. I do believe that the neighborhood may have had some concerns over a full light door. So if the commission doesn't feel that that's appropriate, that would be a good point of discussion.
Okay, any other questions for Brittany?
I have one quick question.
Jeanette?
I hope this isn't too tricky of a question, but so with respect to that front window well within the front porch, Brittany, you mentioned the concept of visibility from the public right of way, and I'm just wondering if you happen to know if that concept of visibility from the public right of way is something that's specifically called out in the design guidelines, which I didn't see it just looking at the guidelines that you cited in your report, or if that's more just a way that the commission and landmark staff have often talked about how we think about certain designs.
Good question.
So the guidelines do talk about flexibility on secondary facades where they have limited visibility from the public right of way. There's nothing specific in the guidelines when talking about the front facade, because I assume usually the assumption is all of that is visible from the public right of way. But in this instance, because of the redesign to the porch wall, that really has resulted in that light well window not being visible. If they were still doing that cable design, then it would have visibility that maybe would change the conversation a little bit in this particular instance.
Any other questions for staff? It doesn't look like it. Okay, Brittany, thank you very much. Jen, is the applicant ready to roll?
Yep, Emily's moving them over.
Okay.
Hang on, almost.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. I got
That's
it.
okay. All right. Okay, to the applicant, you have 10 minutes. Please give your name and address, and Jen will have a timepiece displayed so you can see where you are. Go ahead, sir.
You'll have to unmute yourself.
There you go. My name is Dave Marquez, Marquez, 4251 Kipling Street, Suite 250, Wheat Ridge, 80033. So very similar, as Brittany's done a great job of the overview, similar to the previous project. We've had several reviews with staff and Brittany since our last presentation in front of the board. During that time, I think just to address a couple of the items, the roof pitch, we have lowered the roof pitch a distance from that windowsill, and that just has to do with some of the waterproofing and other items as it relates to the windowsill and the top of that roof pitch. I think we could raise that roof pitch slightly, but really from a waterproofing standpoint, we'd like to keep that about 12 inches minimum below that windowsill. And personally, I'd like to see that more from an architect's standpoint. The front window well, again, I would agree with Brittany, it's not visible from the street. We're very open to making that a cast in place window well that matches the slab. I think the placement of the first level window was just maybe a misinterpretation of our communication with Brittany. We thought she was really driving towards keeping those two windows symmetrical from the second level to the first level. And I think that where we had it before, I would agree that that is a better location. Same thing for the sliding glass doors here. We used a wider profile sliding glass door. And in regards to the window wells themselves, it is an unfortunate that we can't have more light in the side setbacks, but again, it's limited to egress window wells, and we only have the one bedroom down there, so that's the reason for the window well on the front facade. And that's it. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much. Commissioners, have you any questions for the applicant? Gary does.
This is Gary. I have a question about your window details. It's the second detail, number 2, on both sheet 22 and 23, where you have the limestone sills. It appears that there is a gap between the back of the limestone sill and the face of the sheathing end of the window, stool, etc. Your flashing is below the sill, okay, but it looks like there's a gap there that could actually collect water and debris and all sorts of things that I just don't understand why it's being detailed that way. Could you explain that, please?
Hi, Gary, this is Dave here. But I noticed that when these popped up, that is just a graphical error. Those should be pulled back and the flashing should be coming over the top of the limestone sill. So that will be revised when we do any sort of revisions with Brittany if this is approved.
Good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? I don't see any. Staff, do you have any comments?
I would just request that you make the sill detail part of your conditional approval, just to ensure that that gets captured. And then I, again, as I noticed when I was putting together this presentation, this submittal is missing that elevation detail of the cable railing. So if you could add that to your conditions too, that would be great, if you're going to approve.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Okay, all right, so now's the point where anyone from the public is able to comment. Jen, are there any hand raises or anybody waiting on their phone?
I don't see any. Nope.
No? Okay, great. Seeing no public comment, then we will go ahead, commissioners, and go into deliberation. So what are people thinking?
I'll share one thought I have, which is that I think this raises sort of an interesting question, as I was alluding to before, about visibility of the front facade and whether our purview is restricted to considering what somebody would see from the sidewalk or street, or whether it might also be appropriate for us to consider visibility on the part of somebody who's walking up to the front door, whether that might be a delivery person or a neighbor or a friend or family. I recall we had a little bit of this discussion in a project involving Curtis Park a while back, where there was some sort of a window cutout area that was much more significant than this, that wasn't necessarily, I can't remember that it was all that perceptible from the sidewalk, but it certainly would have been very perceptible from the front door area. So I don't know, maybe there's some precedent for this that I'm not recalling, but it strikes me as potentially worthy of discussion, just because it does seem so unusual to have a window well within a front porch area.
Yeah, I was thinking along those lines as well. What do the other commissioners think? Anybody else have any comments regarding that?
This is Gary. I think it's unusual.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can be detailed in a way that it's not really visually obtrusive. It will have to have some kind of grate over it just for protection purposes, I think. But, you know, other than it's the fact that there's no historical precedent for it per se. I don't find it objectionable in this particular case, because it is partially hidden behind the wall, the porch wall. It's not really visible from the public way. I don't think it's obtrusive for visitors or public approaching the front door, whether it's the mailman or the express guy. I just don't have a big problem with it, other than the fact it needs to be a more concrete material, masonry material.
Yeah. Thanks, Gary. Anyone?
Sounds like it sounds like, though, that Jeanette was kind of raising the question of, should we even be worrying about this? And I guess the only thing that comes to mind as maybe comparable has been a case where it was more of a landscaping issue, where the owner had landscaped the front yard, removed concrete sidewalk and stairs and sidewalls, but had also gone all the way up to the porch and had redone the porch floor. And that was definitely part of the scope that we were looking at. And I think of that as similar in the sense of this floor of the porch itself may not be visible to the street, but it was part of this overall concern about materials. And so I guess if that's your question, Jeanette, I guess I would say that it seems like there's precedent to a degree of the commission looking at something like this. But I mean, I definitely agree with Gary too, that in this case, I don't see it as an issue, but it seems like it would be better to just request that, especially since the applicant seems willing to, in this case, to change it to something like concrete that matches the slab.
Okay, anyone else? Anne, did you have any thoughts?
I guess I don't think that within the purview of our guidelines, it seems like an issue because it is so hidden. It seems on a practical level a little bit odd, because if the idea is to get light in, putting it in a porch doesn't seem like the most obvious place to put it, because it will be in shadow all of the time. But I think that that's actually not within our purview. And it's, it seems, yeah. So I don't have an issue with that particular element.
Yeah, and I came on the logistical side of it too. I guess it depends on how the sun hits it. But as far as it being within our purview, I didn't have any trouble with that. I didn't think that was in our purview necessarily. Anybody else? All right, so let's talk about the pitch of the roof of the porch. The project manager has told us that that's a waterproofing issue. What do the commissioners think? Gary?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I was okay with it as well. Anybody else?
This is Brad. I was okay with it as well.
Okay. Any other concerns, commissioners? And the windows, I was concerned about the windows as was staff, but apparently we've figured that out with the project manager. Let's see.
Can we talk about the front door? I would like to hear.
Absolutely, Erica. Yeah, I was looking at my notes. Absolutely, Erica. Let's talk about the front door then.
I don't think I've been, I've participated in review of a project of a non-historic infill project that had a full light door. So I'm just curious what other commission members' thoughts.
Okay, Gary?
For houses that were built in the 20s, a so-called 3/4 light door could be common. This is a full light door, but the difference between the 3/4 light doors that were used in the 20s and this full light door is maybe 6 inches or so of a wider bottom rail. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a problem with what's been shown. Would be a bit better if it had a wider bottom rail, but I'm not going to object to what they're showing.
Anybody else comments about the door? Brad, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't have an issue with it because I think it's a modern interpretation of what Gary was talking about. So it's something that helps kind of put this house in its historical place, and it's reminiscent of what those previous doors would have been like in the 20s.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Gary?
Just for reference, this is a catalog that was used by the McGinty and McPhee Lumber Company in Denver in the 20s, and it has a number of front door designs, and quite a few of those are the so-called almost full glass, 3/4 or 7/8 glass doors. So there's sufficient precedent for this, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. Any other comments? What about the cable, the front railing, or the railing there?
Gary, again, I agree that the change to brick is an improvement over the cable railing, and I support that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anybody else have any thoughts about that?
I agree. I think it's an improvement. I think it's a nice addition.
Okay, great. All righty. Well, it sounds like we're coming into agreement. Is somebody willing to make a motion?
I can try to make the motion.
Thanks, Ann.
And, Madam Chair, I move to conditionally approve application number 2020-COA-439 for the Phase 2 design details at 3414 West 31st Avenue per design guidelines 4.2 to 4.6, 4.8, 4.14, 4.15, 4.17, 4.18, 4.19, 5.9, 5.16, 5.21, character defining features for the Allen M. Ghost Historic District, presented testimonies, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following conditions. 1, show the location of the HVAC equipment and ensure that it is in the rear of the property. 2, provide a height dimension for the proposed fencing and ensure that it is no taller than 6 feet in height. 3, set the fencing back 1 foot from the primary facade. 4, use a higher quality material that relates to the front facade cladding material and porch foundation material on the front facade site wells. 5, recenter the ground floor front facade windows on the dining room wall. 6, provide the cable railing details for the back, the back balcony. And I think I'm out for 7. Clarify details on 222, 2 on 222, and 2 on 223. Clarify the flashing details.
Thank you, Anne. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Gary, thank you. Let's do a roll call vote then.
Oh,
Jeanette-
hold on. Just
Jen.
if someone could make an amendment, because Anne said the sight wells, not the light wells. Just a minor thing.
I'll move to amend the motion to reflect that it is light wells, not sight wells.
Okay, Anne, do you accept that?
I accept.
Gary?
Yes.
Thank you. All righty. Thank you, Jeanette. Let's do a roll call vote then. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Julie votes aye as well. The motion passes. Thank you very much. And now we're on to 2020-COA-440, which is 101 race. And it's Brittany.
Our next project is at 101 Race Street. This is also for a phase 2 design detail review for a new infill project within the Country Club Historic District. This project was originally reviewed by the Commission for a zone lot amendment on August 18th. This is a vacant site within the Country Club Historic District. And then the Commission also reviewed the phase 1 mass form and context submittal at the November 3rd meeting. During the November 3rd meeting, there was discussion of the Commission about the existing site wall in the south and making sure that details were provided on what would be proposed there. So here you can see the site. It's that very large site right at the corner of First and Race Street. And then here is the project cited on the site. It will have a driveway that is accessed from Race, as this particular block of Country Club does not have alley access. So you can see that in this proposal. So here we have the landscape plan, and staff are very concerned about some discrepancies between the landscape plan and the site plan and this project submittal. So they will need to reflect the same level of detail and also reflect the same materials and proposed materials. So in this landscape plan, the sidewalk material and patio material is noted as a red flagstone with a kind of a regular natural shape to it. And then you can see there are going to be some gravel paths according to this landscape plan, and then a concrete drive. The Country Club design guidelines do suggest that walkways should be distinguished from driveways. So we're not concerned that the driveway is a concrete material and the walkway is a stone material, because that is what is suggested by the Country Club design guidelines. We are concerned that the site plan shows different materials for these areas. Additionally, on this landscape plan, there is an egress window on the north side of the project site that is not shown in the same location as the site plan and floor plans for this project proposal. This landscape plan also does show a fountain, and it also shows that the existing site wall on the south of the project will be increased in height, but staff do not have any details on the existing height of the wall, how much height that wall will be increased by. Overheight walls are very common within the Country Club Historic District. Usually that's about 8 feet in height, but we do need to know details on what that change to that, that south site wall will be. And then in the rear of the property, there's some smaller site walls that are noted as 36 inches, and they will have stone caps, but details are not provided on those site walls as well. So There are several things that we see in the landscape plan that we just do not have details on that we are requesting additional information on. So here we have the site plan for the project proposal. You can see that the patios are more noted as a rectangular, regular rectangle, and they're gray stone in the site plan. And then for that window that I was noting in the basement, I do believe it's an egress window because this is in a bedroom. It's on the front facade, and in the landscape plan, it is located on the north facade of the project proposal. So we do have some concerns over the discrepancies in that placement there. So I will move on from the landscape plan. So here's the basement plan. You can see that there is an egress window for the bedroom that is located in the rear of the property. And then I believe that is noted as a workout room, that egress light well window is located on the front facade. And then it's a chimney on that north facade. So we just need that to be shown correctly in the landscape plan. So there are no other light wells proposed, only in those two rooms. So we do have some concerns that if these lower rooms will need light at all, and if so, that they will need to be shown as well. This is just the first floor plan. There's no major changes to the massing of the structure. It's very typical of the Mediterranean style development within the Country Club Historic District. It will have an attached garage. The HVAC units are located in the rear of the property and this little alcove between the garage and then this outdoor patio space that you can see noted here in this first floor plan. So that is appropriate for the Country Club design guidelines. But again, this all of the floor plans note a different style patio and walkway material than is noted in the landscape plan. This is the second floor plan. No major changes to the massing, so I will just move on. Here you can see the roof plan. The applicant is proposing a tile roof, which is similar to the Mediterranean style development within this district. The tile roof is proposed to be a Ludovici Spanish barrel tile with an 18-inch profile. It will be a mix of burgundy and red. It's not indicated in the roof plan how these two colors will be laid out on the roof. The Country Club design guidelines do talk about how roofs should be muted. So staff do have some concerns over using two roof tile colors for this project proposal, particularly when we don't know how they will be laid out on the roof and how those two colors will look in plan, and which will be the dominant color and which will be an accent color. Here is the front facade of the structure. It is a stucco structure, and the applicant is proposing aluminum clad windows. The majority of the windows are a casement style window, which is typical of Mediterranean style development within the Country Club Historic District. It does have projecting bays on the structure. Those projecting bays do not have any overhanging eaves. We do typically require 6-inch overhanging eaves when we are talking about roofs within the historic districts. However, when I was looking at the comparison structures in this district, I did note that the Mediterranean style development that this is inspired from, when it has that kind of projecting bay, you don't often see that overhanging eave. So I wasn't particularly troubled by that not being a detail that you see on this structure. And again, that's just on those two forward projecting bays. The eaves do overhang on the primary ridge of the roof there. Here is the north elevation of the project proposal. Again, stucco proposed, casement windows for the majority of the windows. There are some arched windows on the ground floor. This is the rear elevation of the garage, which will have a dormer. So no really major changes in the massing of this structure. Here is the rear elevation. It will have a cast stone arcade at the rear, and then this This room with the lower chimney is an outdoor patio space that is enclosed on one side and then open on the other side. We don't have too many details on the interior of that space, which we will need details on the interior of that space because that's within our purview as well. The man doors on this facade will be aluminum clad doors to match the finish of the aluminum clad windows. And then this large door that you see that access the patio, that's actually a steel door. That's a little atypical, but it is in the rear of the property and not visible from the public right away. Whoops. This is just the garage elevation. So the garage doors are proposed to be wood. There are 3 different light fixtures proposed for this project, and staff have the most questions of how the light fixtures around the garage doors will attach to the facade. So the applicant is proposing 3 different style light fixtures, which you can see in the light schedule, and the light fixture for the garage is a chain style fixture, but all of the fixtures shown in elevation are drawn exactly the same. And so we do really need to know how they will attach to the facade, particularly as the fixture that's spec'd for the garage appears to be a chain style fixture. So we're not entirely sure how that will hang off of that facade. So we do have some questions there regarding that detail. And then throughout this packet, there are some material notations that overlay each other that just need to be cleaned up by the applicant. There's a few on the rear elevation for some of the light fixtures, and then on the front door, there's some overlaying of material notations that just need to be cleaned up. And then also on the front facade, a dimension does run right through a material notation. So we would ask that that be cleaned up as well by the applicant. So here you can see the proposed materials. It is a stucco. Throughout the elevation packets, the applicant has indicated a La Habra cementitious stucco, but a manufacturer spec for a different stucco product was provided by the applicant. So it's not entirely clear to staff what the stucco specification is. We do require a genuine 3-coat stucco, and based on the details in elevation, we do speculate that the applicant is proposing a genuine 3-coat stucco, but the manufacturer spec that was provided by the applicant, that does come in various applications, and you can get it in a 2-coat application, which is not something that we allow. So the applicant does need to clarify what the proposed stucco detail is in this packet. Here you can see that tile that is proposed with the 2 colors, the red and the burgundy tile. The chimneys will have clay chimney caps, which you can see here. You can see the aluminum clad material that is proposed, the wood garage doors, and then some wood accent materials for soffits and rafters and such. So here we have some details of the front door surround. It will be a precast material that will match the finish of the stucco. You can see that light fixture detail for the front facade, which is a lantern style fixture, and some of those eave details here in this section detail. Staff don't have too many concerns over what we're seeing in this particular section. However, on this page, some of the construction details are a little confusing. Again, we believe that the structure is proposed to be stucco, but some of these section details note brick construction, so that needs to be clarified by the applicant on this page of the section details. But here you can see that precast column that will be located in the rear, those wood rafter details, and then some of those eave details where I mentioned some of the eaves are not overhanging eaves and some of them are. So here we just have a rendering of the proposed project. Overall, staff do feel that this project does fit in with the Country Club Historic District. However, at this time, we are recommending denial over the project as we have a number of concerns over the clarity of the application materials. And that includes clarity in the landscape plan and site plan not conveying the same level of information. In elevation, all fixtures are shown as a lantern style. The correct style light fixture should be shown, and its attachment detail should be shown as well. On page A101, the covered patio at the rear is noted as garage on slab above grade. And again, that's just that rear covered patio, so that needs to be corrected in the plans. On page A201, there are two overlapping keynotes pointing to a door. These overlapping keynotes need to be corrected, and I've previously mentioned that. Again, we do have concerns over the stucco specifications, and if that is a genuine 3D coat stucco, or if the applicant is proposing the stucco that is provided in the manufacturer spec that was provided. The coloring and pattern of the two-color roof has not been provided. So we do have a number of concerns over the application materials. So staff are recommending denial because of the application material clarity, but not because we have major concerns over the actual design details. And we feel like the applicant would have a more successful application before the commission once they just go clean up those details in this application submittal.
Brittany, thank you. Commissioners, have you any questions for Brittany? No? Erica, did you? Muted.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Brittany, I noticed that you provided an alternative motion for continuing, and I was just wondering if you could explain maybe advantages or disadvantages or just basic differences between those two versions of the motion.
Great
So
idea.
that's a great question, because there are definite advantages or disadvantages over that motion. So because we have a 4-week filing deadline that is at noon, today is the filing deadline for the second meeting in February. And the alternate motion I have provided for you is for a date, for a continuance to a date certain, which is actually the first meeting in February. So that would allow the applicant to come back to the commission 2 weeks earlier. So if the commission denies this project today, the earliest that they could come back would be the second meeting in February. But if you continue it to a date certain, they could come back for the first
February
meeting in
2nd.
February. Yes.
The February
And then also, because we do limit applications that the commission reviews in a single meeting, if you continue it to a date certain, that automatically guarantees it a spot on that date certain that it's continued to. So I do have two motions for you to consider.
Okay, thank you.
So, and just to, if we were to continue the application, would they have enough time? I guess I'm just unclear on their deadline that they'd have to get you, cleaned up versions.
Yep. So that is a great question for the applicant. If they feel like they could get me the information that is necessary to review this application. Today is the filing deadline for that February 2nd meeting, but again, it was at noon. So the commission meeting happens after the filing deadline of noon. So I would be comfortable if they were able to get me their application materials within a week for that February 2nd meeting if the commission chooses to continue.
Okay, thank you.
So Brittany, that's a week from today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. All right, any other questions for Brittany? All right, I don't see any questions. Jen, is our applicant present?
Applicant is present, and Emily's
Great.
moving them over.
Yep,
Excellent.
he's moved over.
Awesome.
Okay, terrific. To the applicant, please state your name and your address. You'll have 10 minutes, and Jen will hold up her phone so you can see how much time is elapsing as you speak.
John Mattingly, Chalet 517 East Bayard Avenue, Denver 80218.
Thanks, John.
First, thanks, Brittany, for that thorough review and giving us an option on the second submittal. I can't remember what that's called, but we actually have, with respect to time, the landscape plan has already been addressed, and I'll walk through what's been done to that, and then just add some clarity on some of her comments. And then what I would hope for, if we don't meet that condition, would be to seek an approval with conditions. I think many of these are pretty easily met, and they're really more clarity versus an argument about proper materials. I think they're really just clarifications on the materials applied versus needing them to be changed and rediscussed. And so I would hope that with some clarity, maybe a simplified review, if not an approval with conditions, assuming we can give Brittany the information that she needs. On the landscape plan, the two materials have been clarified for the landscape, for the front patio and back walk, and we've updated that on our site plan already. And the window well that was located reflects their basement window well plan on the landscaping as well. And so that was there was some deliberation before we were discussing bringing the grade down on the patio to the historic grade about raising the wall, and that has been omitted. And so that was a note that needed to be deleted and was not. So the issue of raising the site wall is not an issue. It's been deleted. And so there's no intent to do that. And then there was decided between the homeowner and the landscape architect to remove the fountain because they didn't have one decided upon and decided to remove it at this time. And so the landscape plan now reflects a flowering, like a pear tree in that location instead of a fountain. And so we don't have any other window wells planned in that basement. There are no sleeping spaces in there. So from a code perspective, it's not a requirement to have any more window wells than we currently do. So we don't have any intention of adding any more. So I don't see an issue there. So the landscape plan has been cleaned up, and I actually have a copy of it already here in my inbox. As it relates to the house and some of those details, it's really, what's crazy is getting the La Abra finish that we've called out is the finish coat. And so it's designed to either go over masonry or over a 2-coat stucco system. So a 2-coat brown coat system has to be applied in order for the La Abra to go on as the finish coat. And so that answers for the inconsistencies on the exterior. We're calling it out as La Abra only because that's the texture that you're going to see in the finish, in the mission finish. And so it'd be very easy for us to qualify the Perex listing that she had noted that shows a 2-system application. It may have been selected incorrectly, but the intent is the 3-coat system. And so there's nothing really to argue there. It's just a matter of clarifying that so that there's not any questions. And I understand the concern there. And that goes for the interior of the casita, as we call it, is that outdoor living space that Brittany had noted that you can see in that rear patio looking northwest image in the bottom left corner of the screen. That La Abra finish continues to the interior of those walls also, because since they're technically considered an outside wall. So that plaster finish continues on the interior of that room as well. And it reaches around to the entire exterior. So there's no finish change on those exterior walls of the casita as it relates to the exterior wall of the house there. The light fixtures, again, I need to take a look at the fastening, which is a pretty simple resubmittal on the fastening to show, I think there might be an error on the chain application. Those were meant to be flush sconce fixtures against the garage. And then the roof, of course, with the Louis Luigi tile, what we've specified, and I have a sheet of the exact finish that we've specified that wasn't included in our spec. The actual tile tear sheet was included, but not the finished color that we've specified. And so there's actually a finished color specification. And so it's not us deciding what the pattern is. There's a blend of colors that come from Ludovici at random, and then the installer puts them on. So it's essentially kind of a random pattern of varying tiles that come to us from Ludovici. And so that we don't have any particular pattern in mind more than just a random pattern of the varying tiles as they show up. And that can be seen in a sheet from Ludovici that I actually have already as well. And so we have all the information needed. And I think the question is, we can get what Brittany needs to meet that next review meeting. My question is it necessary to have another full design review and be on your schedule if we can clarify these things, knowing that the design intent is on track, and it sounds like Brittany feels like it is, and if of course if the commission feels the same way, then I would ask that we take a look at an approval with conditions, and we would be able to get these things to Brittany, tomorrow. So I'm happy that with the outcome of the property, and that everyone, that Brittany at least agrees and staff agrees with the material use, and so would like the opportunity to get her what she needs tomorrow, and would ask that we look at an approval with conditions.
Okay, John, thank you. Commissioners, have you questions for the applicant? Gary? Oh, Erica, okay, go ahead.
Okay, John, this is Erica. I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying. Assuming, I understand that you're hoping for a conditional approval today, but assuming we chose to go with one of the staff recommended motions, you would prefer and be able to meet the continuance motion where you would be providing these clarifications to Brittany within a week?
Yes.
So that you're on the next, sorry, the soonest meeting that you could be on.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant, commissioners? Gary, did you have something, or was I wrong? No, okay. All righty, I don't see any other questions. John, thank you very much. I don't see any other questions from the commissioners, so thank you for your comments. The next would be any comments from the public. Jen, have we seen any comments? Anyone?
I don't see any hands raised,
Okay.
and there's no phone numbers, so.
All right. Okay, seeing no public comments or comments from the public, let's go ahead and go into deliberation. Commissioner, Brittany, I'm sorry, did you have some staff redirect?
I just wanted to state we didn't recommend conditional approval of this project as we felt it was too many conditions. But if that's the direction the commission wants to go, I'm more than willing to hear that out and try to get all those.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Brittany. I appreciate it. All right, commissioners, what are your initial thoughts? We've got two different motions. What are the thoughts about the different motions, Gary?
Well, I was just going through the staff analysis, and I think for a conditional approval, I was up to 9 conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just too much. I think the most favorable response we can give to this applicant is a continuance, especially since they've already know what's needed and can provide in a week.
Yeah, I think generally in the past, Gary, I think when there are too many conditions, we've denied the applications, and it could just be from a simplicity factor. What do the other commissioners think about that?
I agree with, I'm sorry, Anne, I'll just say quickly.
We'll get to everybody.
Okay, I'll just say I agree with what Gary was saying, that I do think there's just too many conditions to make it happen today. But I would also, I would like some more information on the roof tile pattern and have a more of a commission kind of weigh in on that particular topic. So
okay,
in that regard, I think a continuance is a good idea.
All right, Anne?
I agree with Gary. I think that a few years ago, we had an application which came back to us many, many times, and I don't know who remembers it, which was similarly an issue of documentation. And it was a continuing problem for everybody down to the inspector, because there was never a set of documents that we all knew reflected the intent without all of the errors. And this is a very complicated project, and I have no doubt that the applicant can make this, can fix everything in the application and make it consistent. And I think that this construction is going to go on for a long time, and it would be in everyone's better interest to start off with a clean set of documents. So I agree with the direction of the continuance, since the applicant seems to feel that that's something that they can do.
Thank you, Ann. Gary?
And regarding Erica's question about the roof, I don't see why the tile manufacturer can't provide a photograph that shows what the blend of those two colors are in a roof tile installation. Rather than just showing the two colors, to show a photograph of a roof with the proposed blend. I think it would help us understand what it's going to look like.
Yeah, you're right. Erin, did you have something?
No, I'm in concurrence with the continuance on this project.
Okay, great. Erin, Brad?
Yeah, I'm in concurrence with what everyone said. I think we need to continue this, and I think it would be good to have a conversation and understand the tile colors better.
All right. Jeanette, did you have anything? No? Okay. Brittany, do you have enough from the commissioners about the roof tile discussion to chat with the applicant, do you think?
I think the suggestion from Gary that they provide an example of the blend installed on a roof somewhere, doesn't have to be in Colorado, can be anywhere, with these two colors would be great. So the commission can see what that looks like.
That'd be great. Thank you very much, Brittany. All right, commissioners, is there a motion from the floor?
I'll make a motion.
Erica, thank you.
Madam Chair, I move to continue application number 2020-COA-440 for the new infill construction phase 2 design detail review at 101 Race Street to February 2nd, 2021, as per presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Erica, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Gary.
Gary.
All right, thank you very much. Let's do a roll call vote then. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
And I will also vote aye. Julie votes aye. The motion has passed, and so the applicant will be in touch with Brittany. And we will see that project come back to us on the 2nd of February. Thanks very much, Brittany. And speaking of Brittany, guess who's up next? It's 2020-COA. Oh, guys, we've been at this for a couple hours. Does anyone need a break, or shall we power through? Any thoughts? Power through? Okay,
Power
cool.
through.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome. All right. Then 2020-COA-441, 620 Clayton and Brittany.
So I believe this is our last design review application for the day. This is at
Yes.
620 Clayton Street, which is a contributing structure to the East 7th Avenue Historic District. I see I forgot to indicate in this aerial which structure it is, but is the one that is, 4 houses in from the south. So here you have the structure. So the applicant is requesting commission approval for site work, which involves reconfiguring their walkway into a straight path, and then replacement of the existing door that appears to be historic to staff, and the existing pediment door surround to the structure that you can see in this photograph here. Previously, the commission has reviewed and approved the replacement of the steel casement windows that were originally on the structure with new windows that you can see in this photograph, a 2-story rear addition, and then administratively staff have approved some site work at this site that involves the rear yard. So this request is just for the reconfiguration of the front walkway, door replacement, pediment door surround replacement. The applicant is also requesting approval for shutters and a security door. Those items do not require our review and approval, as they do not require a permit. So you will see in your application submittal materials some information regarding the shutters and a security door. However, we don't need to review those. We do generally suggest that a security door allows for the historic door to remain visible or replicates the paneling pattern design of the historic door, and that shutters fit the window openings as historic shutters served an operable function, but those are again just recommendations that we make. So in this photograph and somewhat in the aerial image, you can see that the existing walkway is not in a straight path and does zigzag through the property. I did mistakenly miss that the applicant had provided a site plan of the existing conditions prior to the filing deadline for this meeting. I did email that to the commission today, so you should have that existing site plan material in an email from me from today, but here is the existing site plan. You can see that zigzag pattern and then some concrete paving around the front of the steps. So the applicant is proposing to reconfigure that into a straight walk and then expand some of the concrete paving that is on the site. So the extent of the site work has become more clear to staff now that I understand that there is a existing site plan. And we are not overly concerned with the reconfiguration of the site plan. It is a little atypical within the East 7th Avenue Historic District to not have a straight walkway. It does appear that the existing walkway is the original, but the applicant stated that it's cracked in several locations and unsafe. So we do not have major concerns over the reconfiguration of the walkway, as it is atypical of East 7th Avenue to have kind of a zigzag pattern. Additionally, this house, as you saw in the photograph previously, sits very high on a hill. So you won't see some of that concrete paving that is proposed around the site. And our guidelines do suggest when there is not a front porch to do a patio adjacent to the front porch. So it looks like that is all pretty similar to what it's just a small expansion of that existing condition. So we're not overly concerned with that reconfiguration. They will also be relocating some of the existing site lighting, which you can see noted in this plan set here. What we do have some concerns over with are the proposed pediment replacements around. So our guidelines do talk about repairing architectural elements when they have deteriorated beyond repair, and only repairing those pieces of the elements that have deteriorated beyond repair versus whole-scale replacement. So the applicant is requesting whole-scale replacement of the pediment surround, which you can see in this photograph here. The existing pediment surround has a pilaster design with fluted pilasters that have a square base and top. There are dentils located in the pediment, and then it has a broken pediment with a urn design. The proposed replacement design does appear to have more of a round base and cap for the fluted pilasters, and it's unclear to staff if the pilasters themselves are also proposed to be more of a round shape. And then if you look at the pediment replacement design, it does not appear to have the same proportions as the existing pediment design, and those dental details are missing. And then within the tablature, banding is at different locations in the proposed replacement design. And then that broken pediment does appear to have more of a finial versus urn detail on it. So we do have major concerns over the proposed replacement design of the pediment. If that element has deteriorated beyond repair, which the applicant states that it is trapping moisture between it and the brick, it should be replaced to match the existing exactly. And the best way to document that is to provide detailed architectural drawings of the existing element and then detailed architectural drawings of the proposed replacement element. But as of right now, we don't feel we have sufficient information to assess the details of the existing element or the proposed replacement elements. And you can see all those details that have been provided by the applicant for the pediment surround replacement. And again, we are very concerned that it does not match the existing design and we don't have enough information to assess the replacement. The applicant is also proposing to replace the existing door, which appears to be historic to staff. It is a a quarter light door with arch design and paneling below. And the applicant is proposing to replace with a half light with divided lights and paneling below. The applicant did provide some detailed measure drawings of the door last week, which I also emailed to the commission this morning, which you can see here in my applicant presentation. But our design guidelines do talk about how if you are replacing a front door because it's deteriorated beyond repair, it should be replaced to match the existing design, and staff feel that the proposed replacement door is a big deviation from the existing historic door design that you can see in this photograph here. So we are very concerned about the style of the replacement door that is proposed by the applicant. In terms of the site work, the applicant is proposing to replace the railing and handrail that goes down the site. This is the proposed railing design. It is somewhat similar to what is out on the site. The applicant has provided a isometric of the railing, and that has been a dimension and height has been added to it, but the applicant has stated that ends will be curved. So staff have requested a full elevation showing the complete design of the railing be provided as well as part of the project submittal. So at this time, we are recommending denial over this project proposal, as we are very concerned about the clarity of the application materials. Additionally, we're concerned that no evidence has been provided that the pediment surround and door are deteriorated beyond repair. And we feel that the proposed replacement pediment surround and door do not replicate the existing designs accurately. And the extent of the proposed site work has become a somewhat clearer to staff with the submittal of the existing site plan. And we don't have major concerns over the site work, but we are very concerned about the pediment surround and door replacement in this project request.
Thank you, Brittany. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Brittany? Erica?
Yeah, I noticed that the new site plan does propose retaining walls in the front yard, and I was wondering your thoughts on that, Brittany.
So I don't have details on that. I will say that I'm not sure if you were on the commission at the time, but we had a robust discussion about retaining walls in East 7th Avenue, and the actual designation application materials do talk about using retaining walls in this district to use that front yard as public gathering spaces. So once we discovered that, we've been a little more flexible with retaining walls within the East 7th Avenue Historic District, provided that they have materials that are similar to the primary structure. And we need all those details on that to ensure that they're not changing the grade of the site more than a foot, because that is not something that is allowed per zoning. So I would need additional details on that retaining wall proposal as well. And I just don't have that information at this time to make a really good assessment of that retaining wall proposal.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany. Anyone else? Any commissioners? Any questions for Brittany? All right, I'm seeing none. Jennifer, is the applicant present? Or Jen?
Yep, it's all good. The applicant is present. Emily's moving him over.
Great.
He's in there.
Okay, great. To the applicant, please state your name and your address. You'll have 10 minutes to speak about the project. And Jen will have a timepiece that you can watch as you're speaking, so you know where you are.
Very good. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Kurt Lacey. I am the homeowner of the house at 620 Clayton Street. I have been working on this house for 3.5 years with the Landmark Commission. Haven't lived in the house yet a single night, but hoping to move my family into the house when we are able to complete the project, but it's taken an enormous amount of time to get it done. And this particular project is focused on the front yard. There was a question from the commission about the retaining walls, and those retaining walls had been approved on a prior COA that we got when we got the fence approval. So they were part of the COA for the backyard fences, which included the front yard retaining walls as well. So I do have a COA for those retaining walls. I wanted to focus more on the items that maybe were of concern with the front door and the door surround. So I don't know.
Can you hold on 1 second, Kurt?
Yeah,
there's
sure.
an applicant presentation. Do you need me to pull that up, Jen? Or do I?
Yeah, sorry.
Do you have it?
No, I got it. Sorry about that.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Well, I just ask you to advance my slides that I put together. Is that it? Just to know the format here.
I believe that would be perfect.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep, I'm
Yeah.
just
Tell me when
pulling it
you're
up.
able to share them, and I'd be happy to go through them.
Yeah. Let me. I've got it here somewhere. Sorry.
No problem.
I did pause your timer, just so you know.
No
For some
problem.
reason, this is not letting me stop sharing. That's the problem.
Would you like me to share the presentation?
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's,
Okay.
Rita saying it's Rita only. And now I can share it. Just what happens with this is that when you have two things, the other one gets hidden and you can't ever find it. So
Understand. Yeah. Okay. Very good. So that's just my name and the address here. So let's go to the next slide. Overall, we're really proposing, very minor changes. This particular project I've been working on for over a year. I've had people look at the front door trim and match it with, as much detail as possible from the available material and what they're able to manufacture and build. So that's part of the diagrams that we propose. The front door is very historic in nature. We are proposing a different design. The door, it's hard to tell if it was original or not. I really have a hard time assessing that. But the interior of the door has shown a lot of wear and tear, and there is a lot of wear on the steps and the concrete path. There must be 20 or 30 cracks. Some of the lips on the stairs are broken. And so it's reached a point where it's really beyond repair. I would love to use the existing handrails. They're beautiful, but the city of Denver won't allow me to do that because they are not code compliant with the current code standards for the rail. So again, we tried to provide a near exact match of the handrail as well. So let's go to the next slide. This kind of summarizes the project. So what components of the project we have. So we have the front door, the security door, and the door trim. If we go to the next slide, it just talks about the realignment of the steps and the shutters. And if we go to the next slide, this is focused on the front door. So if we go to that next slide, that front door has a lot of repair to the cracks and to the broken glass that's in it. It's reached a point where it's in very disrepair, and the door trim is been rotted from the water damage that's seeped in from the top. So the front door we're proposing is a very historical door. The reason why the interior designer chose the 9-panel is to match the current window panes that Brittany showed at the beginning of her presentation, to match the same window pane structure of the windows with the door front. And so this provides the detail of what that new door would look like on the right-hand side and the jamb location and detail. If we go to the next slide, This will focus on the security door, which we won't spend much time, but I think it meets, if we go to the next slide, it'll meet the historical nature of the door, right? Today, the door is very obstructed from the current security door. It's very hard to open the door because it's mounted on the inside of the frame. And so the new door, security door, are just door to protect the wood nature of the door will be more open and visible from the street. So more match what the commission would like to see. If we go to the next slide, this talks about the door trim. The door trim, if we go to the next slide, you can see what's not apparent is this whole structure is rotting from the inside out because the two top surfaces there that are mounted at the top, they've deteriorated, allowing the rain and snow to fall in behind the structure. And if you see the very bottom of the structure, those kind of worn pieces at the bottom are a result of rain and snow kind of traversing through the brick, rotting the brick, the structure from the inside out, and then falling in on the very bottom where it seeps out. And so as a result of that, we'd like to propose visually what I think is almost an exact match of what is there today. As Brittany pointed out, I think the only difference that we have is just the slight elevation difference of the dental across. It's, I think, a raise maybe an inch or two higher, and there's no dentals that are available from any sort of material that's there today. Proportionally, it is the same. We're not putting it or expanding it or putting it in a door opening. It's the exact same. There was some questions about the very bottom piece being rounded. If you go back to Brittany's presentation, that's actually a square design, just like it is now, but just has a rounded base on it, like the current one does. It's just square. It's a square rectangle that would be cut 2 inches at the very bottom to match really the exact measurements of the current door trim there. So visually, you can kind of visually see it's you know, we spent 6 months designing this particular feature as a replacement to the rotted facade today, and we tried to match it as just near exact as we possibly could. And the details of the proposal for the door trim are in what we've submitted already. So you can see there the top pieces pre-built, so is the bottom footer, and then those flutes will be manufactured in a wood shop to be able to match the current dimensions of the door trim. Let's go to the next slide. So this just highlights, if we go to the next slide, it just talks more about the relocation of the steps. So you can see it kind of aligns directly with the front steps. This resolves some of the cracking and the steps having to be re-poured. So the lights move over to the existing light location around the front steps. It is very typical of that environment in the historic district we have today, is just have a front step. So it'll be designed and built the same way as the current one is outlined in this particular site plan. If we go to the next slide, I think just provided a little bit more detail than Brittany had. These are diagrams that I provided the commission already, but on the top left is the existing rail system, and you can see that again, we've provided a matching rail components that match that same rail design with the twist and the straight bars with the handrail, and that shows a picture of the end caps or the end pieces that will be part of the new rail system that match very closely what's there now. So the measurements and the locations are all provided there in the diagram on the lower left in terms of the 36-inch height and the 3.5 feet off the current step location. And you can see kind of some of the cracking on the existing rail. You can see how it's broken up there and some of the existing environment there as well. Okay, if we go to the next slide there, this is just the wood shutters would be painted black to fit the front. If you go to the next slide, I don't think I even have another slide. That's really it. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. And this project is really at a point where we need to make a decision to move forward on this project or not. If we don't get approval, we'll probably just leave it the way it is. And we don't really have time to be able to continue to delay the project after we've been working on this project for over 3.5 years to try to live in the house in the neighborhood. So it really has reached a point where they're going to make a decision to move forward with this, and we hope the commission will approve your project as an enhancement to what is rotted and deteriorating materials in the front yard to help enhance. And hopefully you've seen that we've done a good job of trying to match the current materials that are there now today. So thank you very much.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Kurt. Commissioner, I know it's we all need that mug. You're on mute. Commissioners, have you any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do. What's your reasoning for straightening the access steps instead of keeping the dogleg jog?
Well, it's just all cracked and deteriorated. And so it's very inconvenient to walk up the steps and then jog over and then walk up the steps again. And so it made more sense if we had to replace them anyways to just straighten them straight out to help facilitate, easier access to the front door. It's really hard to shovel that one section there. It has rails on it and you can't push the snow across it. It's all cracked in the jog over. It just provides a more cleaner look in the front of the house in terms of a straight access.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else, commissioners? Any other questions for Kurt? All right, I am seeing no other questions. Brittany, did you have any redirect? No? Okay, great. Jen, this would be the point at which we have comments from the public. Has anyone emailed you or?
No one's raised their hand. Nope.
No comments from the public. All right, okay, then commissioners, it is time to deliberate. So what are your initial thoughts?
Can I ask a question of Brittany at the beginning of this? In a case where there's a dispute, or I guess, who makes the ultimate judgment about whether an element can be repaired or needs to be replaced? And I'm thinking about the doors and the surround.
Usually that's the commission, but usually we just require a little more evidence to verify that that element does have some damage to it. So the applicant mentioned that it's pulling away at the top. I don't have any photographs documenting that. The applicant mentioned for the door that it is cracked in several locations. I don't have any photographs documenting that. So usually it's just more photographic evidence verifying what was presented by the applicant today, that those elements are damaged. And that's just something we don't have in this application.
Okay. Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you.
Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is Gary speaking. I think my biggest concerns about this are the replacement of the door and the surround. If the surround is in fact as deteriorated as expressed, it can be replicated in exact detail because we've got the existing surround, measured drawings can be made, and all the features of that existing surround can be replicated today. I think what's being proposed, at least what looks like what's being proposed, is what would be a stock item, maybe with some modification. And from the drawing that's presented, it just seems to be of much lighter character than the one that exists. So, I mean, if we were to approve the replacement, in my mind, it would have to replicate what's there exactly. And this current submittal does not advocate for that. So I agree with the staff's recommendation for denial. The same thing would be true for the door. Even if the door is damaged or deteriorated to the degree that it cannot be adequately repaired, it can be replicated. I think it's a unique door and it's part of this building's history. The proposed door doesn't even seem to be stylistically appropriate for this building. So there's a problem with that as well.
Yeah, Gary, I agreed with you. I think the proposed door, it's a pretty door, but it just doesn't fit the history of this house. It may be a historical design in another building, but for this house, it just doesn't quite fit. And I agree with you. The craftsmanship is out there. I think the door trim could be replicated. Other commissioners, their thoughts? Erin, did you want to talk about the landscape, the change in that?
Yeah, I was going to comment on that, I mean, I understand the rationale for wanting a straight shot sidewalk, but it's very distinctive having the dog leg, and it will change the character. It's not necessarily a hill I'm willing to die on, but I appreciate the intent the original designer had of it's not a straight walk up to the house, that it makes it almost like it's a fortress up on a hill rather than it's accessible, but that's just me.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was a shame, but I too understand the intent. Other commissioners, other thoughts, please? Brad, Ann?
Yeah, this is Brad. I agree with Gary on the replacement. I think the pediments surrounding the door are the two areas that I'm most concerned. And I think the guidelines are pretty straight there. So, 2.12 really talks about the replacement must match the original design. And so I think, as everyone said, there's some of those pieces may be off the shelf pieces, but there are people out there that are able to document that and design it as it is. So I agree with the staff's assessment.
I do as well. Erica?
I would just add to that, again, having some documentation that just shows the true deteriorated condition of the surround and door would help with reaching a decision.
Yeah,
about
I
it.
agree. I don't have any issues with the replacement as long as it fits the design guidelines. But further documentation on the actual deterioration, I think we would need to have that for the record. Jeanette, did you have anything to say about this? No? All righty. Is there a motion from the floor in this case?
I can do the motion,
Great, Ann, thank you.
unless somebody else wanted to.
It's yours,
Okay.
Ann.
All right, here we go. Madam Chair, I move to deny application number 2020-COA-421 for the facade alterations and site work at 620 Clayton Street per design guidelines 2.12, 2.15, 2.23, 5.3, character defining features for the East 7th Avenue Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Is there a second?
I second.
Brad, thank you. All righty, let's do a roll call vote then. Jeanette?
I'm sorry, I just was wanting to make sure that the citation to 5.3 was correct still, given that I think the sense of the commission was that the site work was okay.
Oh, that's a good catch, Jeanette. Should we, are you offering an amendment?
Yeah.
Are the commissioners okay with the site work? I see a lot of nodding heads. Okay. So Jeanette, could you offer an amendment?
Well, I will offer a friendly amendment that the mention of of design guideline 5.3 be removed from the motion.
Anne, do you accept that? Oh, Brittany has her hand up. Brittany.
So I'm not sure if you want to conditionally approve this or the condition that the site work is something the applicant can move forward with, and then change the motion entirely, because the discussion was that the site work may be appropriate and the applicant did provide the existing site plan. So I don't know if that's something you want to discuss.
So we may want to do two different motions. Is that what you're looking at, Brittany? What you're suggesting?
I think you could do a conditional approval, and the condition would be elimination of the pediment and door surround from project scope. But perhaps Jen has something to say
And-
since she just
yeah.
came online.
Hi, Jen.
Yeah, and you could do a conditional approval with the condition that the door surround impediment and the door be removed from the project scope.
I do have a question about that though, because the site plan has a retaining wall, and I understand that the applicant said he received a previous COA for that, but I guess I just wanted to verify that that is the case, and if we're talking about if that COA was approved that for the retaining walls, does that change though with this addition of changing the walk? So I guess I'm just wondering if we actually have the information we need for a determination on the site work.
Are you referring to the retaining wall on the south side of the site in the side yard, or is there one in the front?
There are two in the front.
There's two in the front.
Okay, so those have not been approved to my knowledge, but I can double check that right now.
Okay, that'd be great, because they're gonna have to pull a permit for retaining walls.
So can I say that I assume, I think that we need more clarity about the handrail, because the handrail, we've seen only 3 pickets to it, and it has kind of a triangular piece.
Yeah.
And my question is how, and so I assumed that when we were doing the site work features, that we would see more information about what happens when there are 9 of those. I mean, I just don't, I don't understand them. And the applicant said that one of the reasons he's changing it is because it's not code compliant. And so I'm not quite sure why this one is more code compliant. So in the same vein of, because in our defense, we actually never saw the original site plan. And I understand that that was a late addition, that came to us late, but that's one of the reasons why it's a little, I would prefer to leave the site work in. We can be submitted exactly in the dog leg, but that's not precluded from what we're seeing. It's just that we need more clarity on it.
So Anne, you're saying that perhaps we should leave the that component in the motion. Okay, as it stands. Okay.
For the record, I think the railing looks acceptable to me. I mean, I can see where it wasn't code compliant before. And I don't know what triangular piece you were looking at, Anne.
Well, look at the top center photo. It looks like the spaces between the rails is longer, and as you go down, they're shorter. It feels like it might be I think it could be a really fun, if you look at the drawing as well. In fact, we've got at the top it says 4 inches, and at the bottom 3.5. Yeah, so I think it could be a really fun element, but as Anne said, it would be interesting to see, how that's going to look after a few feet.
Okay, I just thought it was the perspective issue on the photograph, but all right.
No, yeah, it's a half inch, or at least my eyes.
It looks to me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. It looks to me like the 3.5 is referring to the distance.
It's the distance off of the
you're absolutely right.
So I think it is just a perspective.
I'm needing glasses. I don't know.
I think if you look at like sort of it shows arrows pointing up and down at the next
Yeah,
to the,
no, I see it now. Yeah, never mind.
because I would be leaning toward accepting the site work and allowing that to move forward.
Yeah.
But again, I just wonder about the retaining wall, because the 2 retaining walls, we don't have materials or dimensions that I can see.
Material, yeah. Gary, you had a question?
Well, I think, the previous plan that was approved apparently did not show the walkway being straightened. So this plan, which shows the walkway being straightened, what we don't know, or what I can't see, is whether or not this affects the previously approved site plan. You know, the retaining walls are kind of dotted in on the site plan, but the retaining walls don't appear to be in the correct place to accommodate what's being shown by straightening the walk, unless I'm not reading it properly. So there's some lack of clarity as to what exactly is going to happen if we approve this site plan regarding the previously approved site modifications.
So it's looking more and more to me like we would go forward with the motion that Anne originally made. Is that, I see some nodding heads. All right.
Does that mean I should withdraw my friendly amendment? Is that how we work? We do it procedurally?
Yes, can you withdraw? Yeah, I think you have to officially.
Okay, I will withdraw my friendly amendment.
Okay, thank you. All right, are we ready to go ahead and vote then? We'll do a roll call vote. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Julie, I will vote aye as well. All right, Brittany, the applicant can chat with you about how to come back to the, should they decide to come back to the commission. The motion passes. Thank you very much, Brittany. You've had kind of a long day, Brittany. Thank you very much. At this point, we now have a discussion item, and I believe that's Jennifer.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
I think, oh, there we go. Perfect. I think maybe I should have just asked Brittany to do my presentation since she was totally on a roll there.
Yeah, she may as well. She's all warmed up, Jennifer.
So just for the record, there's no public comment on discussion items. So that's what this says. And Jenny, I'm going to put you as the controller.
Great, thank you. Okay, great. Well, a little bit of a switch here for you guys, different topic. I hope you guys are all having a good new year. Today, I'm going to talk to you a bit about what we have in the works for a Denver Latino Chicano historic context. So Denver's Landmark Preservation Program and Community Planning and Development Department are embarking on a pretty exciting project to develop a historic context on the history of Latino Chicano peoples in Denver. The context study will provide a broad historical overview on the citywide settlement and development patterns of Denver Chicanos Latinos through the 1990s and identify locations and buildings affiliated with the cultures to help preserve Denver Latino Chicano history. The context will contribute to Denver's citywide building survey, Discover Denver, and help inform inclusive preservation and land use planning. It will be the first in a series of historic contexts undertaken by Landmark Preservation to explore the diverse ethnic and cultural history of Denver. I want to note that we will use the terms Chicano and Latino and likely others as the project progresses and community members self-identify to help acknowledge the diverse history of the many peoples who have called Denver home in this context, whether their roots are indigenous or come from elsewhere, recognizing that one label does not fit all. Through this project, it is anticipated that the context will identify several property types associated with Denver Latino Chicano history, including sites related to civil rights movements and leaders, churches, cultural arts facilities, community gathering spaces, murals, residences, and businesses. The context will identify historical themes in areas of significance such as social history, art, architecture, education, religion, ethnic heritage, and commerce. Specific resources of significance that will likely be identified and which by no means are comprehensive include West High School and Plaza de la Raza, sites of Chicano movement protests, and resources on Santa Fe Drive, including the Azatlan Theater. Before we go any further, I do want to provide a brief explanation in historic context. I know some of us are more familiar with it than others, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page as to what this project is. So a historic context is a somewhat technical historic preservation product, and it is a very critical one to guide preservation planning practice. You as landmark preservation commissioners are particularly familiar with historic context through the landmark designation process, where you must consider historic context and themes of a given property as a requirement for designation. According to the National Park Service, a historic context is a cornerstone of the preservation planning process that provides a guiding document grouping information about related historic properties. More specifically, it provides a background for understanding why a property exists, a basis for comparing one property with related properties, and a case for historic designation eligibility. In essence, it helps us understand what significant historic places exist so we can in turn identify ways to recognize, protect, and celebrate them. Landmark preservation has developed several historic contexts in the past to help guide our work to identify and protect significant historic places across Denver, most recently through the citywide building survey Discover Denver. Over the past 5 to 10 years, preservation programs at all levels across the country, local, state, and national, have been making concerted efforts to ensure that they are recognizing the diversity of our collective histories, specifically related to underrepresented communities. This project contributes to this larger effort. An example is Los Angeles' citywide building survey, Survey LA, on which we modeled Discover Denver, that included the development of a Latino historic context statement for its city several years ago. This is the first attempt by the city to thoroughly study Denver's Latino Chicano history as it relates to historic places. As I mentioned, this historic context will be the first in a series of contexts to study underrepresented communities in Denver and will provide a critical model for future historic contexts on other underrepresented communities like African Americans and American Indians. The overall project goal is to ensure that all aspects of Denver's history are reflected, honored, and preserved. While CPD has worked to better understand and celebrate the Latino Chicano communities and cultural heritage of specific Denver neighborhoods, like the La Alma Lincoln Park neighborhood depicted in these photos, which was a site of major activity during the 1960s, 1970s Chicano movement, and currently undergoing a historic district designation process, no citywide context for this history has been undertaken to date. A significant part of Denver's historic fabric is the stories of the diverse persons and groups that comprise its vibrant history. Denver's current portfolio of Denver landmarks is largely slanted to a single demographic that does not adequately reflect diverse ethnic and cultural groups. Many historic resources associated with these groups are being lost at an alarming rate due to Denver's rapid development pace. This historic context is needed to create a comprehensive history of Denver's Latino Chicano communities and the historic resources tied to them, guiding work to preserve all parts of Denver's history, not just through historic designation, but also broader land use planning and policy. As outlined here, the scope of work looks pretty cut and dry. However, one of the more unique aspects of this project is the community engagement that will take place. We want to listen and learn from Denver's Latino Chicano communities to understand their history in Denver. The feedback we receive through robust community engagement will directly guide the more traditional historical research, as well as the content in the final report. We are excited to work on this with the respected historic preservation consulting firm Mead & Hunt and sub-consultant Nikki Gonzalez, Associate Professor of History and Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion at Regis University. Nikki is also a member of History Colorado's State Historians Council. City staff and the consultant team jump-started the project just last month, so it's still pretty fresh, and we're in the early planning stages of the project. We are currently focusing on the development of a public engagement plan with sub-consultant Nikki Gonzalez and Latino Chicano community members, which we anticipate kicking off later this winter. Part of the community engagement includes the opportunity to partner with the City of Denver's I Am Denver Storytelling Project, a community-wide multimedia project that engages community and gives voice to underrepresented residents. The community engagement will help identify stories to be told via an I Am Denver Storytelling Lab, which will be turned into a mini documentary. With any luck and contingent upon the status of the COVID pandemic, the film will be shared at a screening, providing for the historic context to be shared broadly at a targeted community event. So we're hopeful that that can be pulled together. The entire project should wrap up by the end of this year. The final report will be made available in both Spanish and English, and CPD will also create and make available an interactive online map that will highlight key elements of the context. We're fortunate to have broad support for this project, including funding from the offices of Councilwoman Jamie Torres and Amanda Sandoval, Denver's Community Planning and Development Department, History Colorado State Historical Funds, and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So that's kind of a brief snapshot of what we're doing with that project, and I'm happy to take any questions. Just as a heads up, my speakers aren't really great, so if you guys could speak pretty loudly for me, that would be great. Thanks.
Great, thank you. That sounds awesome. Anybody have any questions or comments for Jennifer?
I have a comment that you may know that the stone pony mural's been vandalized. I noticed today.
I had heard about that. Yeah, that's obviously a much older photo that's in the presentation.
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's just been the last couple of weeks because I drive down there a lot. And
Yeah.
There's been a lot of vandalism in the neighborhood lately.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
This is Erica. I'll just say that this is a really exciting project, and I'm really excited to see this moving forward, and that the consultant team is, I think, going to produce an excellent product. I did want to note just that because it's kind of on the down low, but there's History Colorado has a history pin. History Pin is a website, historypin.org, and has several years ago put together collections based on underrepresented communities in Colorado, and Hispano, Latino, Chicano is one of those collections. And so it might be good just to take a look at that and see if there's anything there that's been noted that might be helpful to the project. But I'm sure they'll be covered otherwise, but it's just really exciting. So thanks.
Thanks, Erica. Yeah, we early on were talking with Marisa Volpe over at History Colorado. So she was keying us into all those resources, which is great. So we're excited to dig into them.
Fun. Anybody else? I think it just sounds awesome, Jenny. Thank you for talking to us about it.
Great. Well, thanks for the time, guys.
Of course. Gary, you had a question?
Well, I do. You did mention the African American or Black American context as well. Is there some thought as to how soon after working on the Chicano Latino context that one might be in the works? And the reason I'm bringing it up is that you talked about rapid changes. The rapid changes in 5 Points is dramatic, and there's a lot of cultural history that's kind of being erased there as we speak. And I'm just wondering how quickly something can be done there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are hoping that the next context, which we are thinking will be African-American communities, would occur on the heels of this one. So if we stay on target with this time frame, we'll be done with the Latino Chicano historic context study by the end of this year, as I'd mentioned. And with any luck, we can get rolling then on the next one, which would be African-American history. The trick is finding the funding for that, which we haven't secured yet. There are a lot of different sources out there that we are looking into. So yeah, we would like to just go from one to the next. So starting that in 2022, but again, contingent on funding to get that done.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, then Jenny, thank you very much. Jen, staff, thank you very much. Brittany, you get a star for today. You're very busy today. Thanks everybody, and I will adjourn the meeting. It is officially 3:53 p.m. Everybody have a great day, great couple of weeks, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.